What if I told you that the moment you took your last breath in a past life, you were more conscious than ever before? Not less, not gone, but completely vividly awake in a realm that most people spend their entire lives ignoring. And in that realm you chose. You chose the body you now inhabit, the family you were born into, and yes, even the people you would love, lose, and find again. You didn't fall into this life by accident. Your soul selected it with precision, the way a sculptor chooses a block of marble, the way a composer hears a melody before writing the first note. This isn't a poetic metaphor. It's a sacred truth, whispered in the oldest spiritual texts and echoed through mystical experiences across every culture. In Tibetan mysticism, there's a map, an ancient guidebook known as the Bardo or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It describes what happens in the moments, hours, and even days after death, not as a metaphor, but as an actual detailed journey your consciousness goes through once your body can no longer hold it. You might think death is the end, but it's only the release of the physical anchor. Because when your body goes still, your awareness does not. You remain pure, lucid awareness, more real than this world, more awake than you've ever been. In that moment, you don't disappear, you expand. You move into what is called the Chikhai Bardo, where you encounter the clear light, a field of infinite, blinding radiance. And here's where it gets profound. If you recognize that light as your true nature, if you see it not as something outside of you, but as you, then you're liberated. You don't have to come back. You transcend the wheel of birth and death. But if you don't recognize it, and most souls don't, then the journey continues. You begin to drift through different realms of consciousness. You witness visions. You feel drawn to certain energies, memories, sensations, and gradually, the illusion of individuality returns. You start remembering who you thought you were. You begin feeling emotions again, desire, fear, attachment. You think you're watching something, but really, you're dreaming yourself back into existence. This is when the Sitpa Bardo begins. The Bardo of becoming. The phase where the soul starts to shape its next life. But here's the part no one tells you. You don't just get randomly assigned a new body. You are magnetically pulled toward a life that reflects your inner frequency. It's not punishment, it's resonance. Your karmic field, built from your actions, thoughts, intentions, and even the desires you clung to at the moment of death, forms a signature, a unique energetic imprint. And that imprint searches, like a tuning fork, for a matching environment. You are drawn toward two people, potential parents, who are generating a frequency that resonates with yours. Not just biologically, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. The vibrations of their union form a gateway, and your soul, still formless, still hovering in the intermediate state, feels the pull. You may even experience their intimacy not as a voyeur, but as a participant in the field of energy being created. And then something clicks, a merging of frequency, a karmic spark, and you enter. Not randomly, not blindly, but by choice. A choice made from the subconscious level of your soul. A choice shaped by everything you've ever been. Every decision, every belief, every desire you've ever carried, even unconsciously. In that moment, you're not just choosing a body, you're choosing a curriculum. You're selecting a set of lessons. You're saying, this time I will learn compassion, or this time I will face abandonment not as a victim, but as a soul seeking to transmute pain into love. And so the veil begins to fall. The deeper you go into the womb, the more you forget, because the forgetting is a mercy. It allows you to experience life freshly, to love without bias, to forgive without remembering why it hurt. But echoes remain. That unexplainable connection you feel when you meet someone for the first time? That déjà vu when you visit a place you've never been? That intense pull toward a stranger's eyes, a stranger's voice, as if you've loved them for centuries. These are not coincidences. These are soul echoes. They are fragments of a contract made before you ever took your first breath. You see, your soul doesn't journey alone. You travel in soul clusters, groups of spirits that incarnate together, lifetime after lifetime, to help each other evolve. Some come as parents, some as enemies. Some as lovers so intense their presence feels like coming home and being shattered all at once. These are not accidents, they are reunions. Your soulmate isn't someone you find by luck. They are someone you've already known, already loved, and in many cases, already lost. The longing you feel in this life, when no relationship seems to satisfy you fully, it's not always about this life. Sometimes, it's the memory of a soul you promised to meet again, and sometimes that meeting doesn't happen in this lifetime. But the promise still guides you, because every life you live adds another thread to the tapestry of your soul's evolution, and every person you meet is part of that sacred weaving, even the ones who break your heart. Especially them, because sometimes the soul grows fastest through contrast, through the ache of separation, through the fire of betrayal. These are not spiritual punishments, they are accelerators. So, you chose this life. Not to suffer but to awaken, not to escape your karma but to alchemize it. You chose your parents. You chose your body. You chose the conditions of your birth so they would activate the next layer of growth your soul was ready for. And the more consciously you live this life, the more awake you will be in the moments after it ends. The more likely you'll recognize the light, the more likely you'll remember who you truly are. And in that remembrance, you won't just choose your next life wisely. You may not need to choose another one at all. You may finally remember that you were never bound by life or death in the first place. You were always pure awareness, eternal, free. There's something profound you begin to realize when you understand the soul's journey after death. You were never meant to live someone else's story. And yet, so many of the lives you've lived have been just that. Scripts inherited, karmas adopted, patterns repeated. But the moment your spirit leaves the body, you are finally free of the noise, the titles, the wounds, the clutter of opinions and expectations. In that sacred silence you see everything clearly. You see your whole life not in a linear slideshow, but all at once, not with judgment, but with compassionate understanding. You feel where you held back love, where you clung to fear, where you ignored your intuition, and yet you also see the beauty. You feel the courage it took to love again after loss, the strength it took to forgive, the quiet victories that no one else noticed, but the soul never forgot. This panoramic review is not about guilt. It's about clarity, it's about refinement, it's about learning in the purest sense. And with that awareness you begin to sense what you still desire to experience, not from ego, but from the soul's longing to expand, to remember, to return to wholeness. This longing creates movement, that movement becomes vibration, and that vibration becomes your compass. You begin to magnetize the perfect environment to fulfill those next lessons. You don't do this alone. Your spirit guides, those who have walked with you across lifetimes, begin to assist. They don't choose for you, but they gently hold up mirrors, reminding you of your deepest intentions. You are shown possibilities, lives that align with what your soul is ready to explore, not just in one country or one culture, but across the entire spectrum of existence. Sometimes you choose a body on earth, sometimes elsewhere, sometimes physical, sometimes ethereal, but in this story, the one you're living now, you chose to return to earth. You chose a world of contrast, of limitation, of beauty and brutality existing side by side, and within that world you chose a specific entry point, a moment in time, a womb, a mother, a father, a lineage. You didn't just choose their genetics, you chose their pain, their patterns, their possibilities, because within them were the exact ingredients needed to activate your growth. Maybe your parents were loving, maybe they were absent, maybe they were both, but in some way they carried the keys to awaken what was sleeping in you. And just as you chose them, someone may have chosen you. If you've ever looked into the eyes of your child and felt an unspoken recognition, that's not coincidence. That's a reunion. If you've ever felt a soul move through you during pregnancy, or sensed a presence waiting to be born, it's because they were, and they knew you. Souls often wait generations for the right moment, the right parents, the right karmic window to open, and when it does, they don't just fall into the body, they return home through you. But what about love? What about soulmates? The truth is, soulmates are not fairy tales. They are frequencies. They are echoes of yourself moving through another. Some are tender, some are challenging. All are meant to evolve you. You may have promised each other in another life to meet again, and so you do, not by chance, but by synchronicity, a glance, a conversation, a sense of déjà vu. Suddenly you feel more alive, or more shaken, or more seen than you ever have before. That's a soul contract awakening. But not all soulmates are meant to stay. Some are here to open you, some to break you, some to help you remember what you forgot when you entered the veil. Because this veil, this forgetting, it wasn't a mistake, it was mercy. Imagine carrying every past life memory into this one, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every death. You'd never be able to experience life freely. So the veil softens your edges. It allows you to fall in love again, even with someone who may have hurt you in a past life. It allows you to trust, to explore, to be reborn without the burden of history. But sometimes glimpses break through dreams, through meditations, through those moments where you feel something ancient inside you stir. You remember pieces. Maybe you can't explain why you're drawn to certain places, symbols, or periods in history, but your soul remembers. And when those memories surface, they aren't here to haunt you, they're here to guide you. So many people live their lives thinking they're alone, abandoned, forgotten. But from the soul's perspective, nothing could be further from the truth. You are surrounded by beings who love you more deeply than words could ever express. Some are in the physical, some are not. Some are waiting to meet you in this lifetime. Others are guiding you silently, whispering through intuition, dreams, synchronicities. Every time you follow that inner nudge, you're answering them. But here's something even deeper. You don't just choose your parents or your soulmate. You also choose your challenges, the illnesses, the betrayals, the heartbreaks. Not because you want to suffer, but because your soul knows some lessons can only be learned through fire, through loss, through breaking open. And in those moments where you feel like everything is falling apart, what's really happening is that something untrue is dying. Something no longer needed is being stripped away, and what's left is real, is sacred, is you. Most people fear death because they believe it's the end. But when you know this process, when you understand how you've chosen every step, you stop fearing death and you start respecting it. You start preparing for it, not with dread, but with reverence, with awareness, with presence. Every moment of presence you cultivate now becomes your power in the bardos. Every act of love you embody now becomes your compass later. The more awake you are now, the more free you become then. Because in the bardos, your awareness is your only tool. There is no physical body, no mind as you know it, just pure consciousness navigating realms shaped by vibration. That's why meditation isn't just a wellness practice. It's death rehearsal. It teaches you how to rest in awareness, how to observe thought without becoming it, how to meet fear without running, how to stay open in the unknown. These are not spiritual luxuries, they are soul essentials. And when the time comes, when your current body exhales its last breath, you will not be afraid. You will remember, you will rise, and you will once again be shown choices, possibilities, pathways. But this time, if you've done the work, you won't choose unconsciously. You'll choose with wisdom, with clarity, with heart. You may even choose to stay in the light, to dissolve back into source. Or you may choose to return, not because you have to, but because you want to help others awaken too. Because that's the final evolution of the soul. Not just to escape the cycle of birth and death, but to master it. To return as a conscious being, a bodhisattva, a light in the dark. And it all begins with how you live right now. You might not remember making the choice to come here, but your soul does. Deep inside you there's a knowing, a memory far older than your birth certificate. It's not a memory of events or timelines, but of purpose, of a vow you made before you entered the veil. A vow to grow, to heal, to awaken, and now life itself has become the mirror, reflecting back to you the parts still yearning for that awakening. Every challenge you face, every pattern that repeats, every relationship that cracks you open, these aren't punishments, they are invitations. Invitations to remember that you are not this name, not this job, not this struggle. You are the timeless witness behind it all. You are the soul navigating a human story. And the more you remember this, the more power you reclaim. The veil was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to be transcended through awareness, through love, through conscious choice. And that's what you're doing now, with every insight, with every act of forgiveness, with every moment you choose love over fear. You're lifting the veil, not just for yourself, but for everyone you're energetically connected to. That's the secret the ancient mystics understood. You don't evolve in isolation. You evolve as a field. When you heal, the field of your entire soul group shifts. When you remember who you are, you give others permission to do the same. That's why so many old souls have chosen to reincarnate now. Not for comfort, not for ease, but to break patterns that have existed for centuries, to end cycles of suffering, to plant seeds for generations to come. And some of those old souls are the ones you call your children, the ones you call your friends, the ones who trigger you, push you, or love you in ways that shake your foundation. They came not just to walk beside you, but to hold up mirrors, to show you the parts of yourself you've forgotten, abandoned, or rejected. Some mirrors will show you your light, others your shadow, but all of them are sacred. You didn't meet anyone by accident. There are no accidents in a vibrational universe. Every connection is either a reflection, a lesson, or a gift. And sometimes it's all three at once. That's why some people feel instantly familiar, as if you've known them forever. Because, in a way, you have. In the in-between realms before your current birth, you may have sat with these souls. You may have planned to meet again, not with perfect scripts, but with potential themes, a promise to help each other remember, to challenge each other toward growth, to be each other's catalyst, even if it meant playing difficult roles. You may have said, "In this life, I'll be the one who leaves you, so you finally find yourself." Or, "I'll be the one who breaks your heart, so you discover a deeper kind of love." These are not easy agreements, but they are powerful, and they are made from a place of higher vision, from a knowing that the soul can never truly be broken, only opened, only awakened. So when someone enters your life and everything changes, when your heart opens or your world falls apart or your sense of self dissolves, that's not chaos. That's a soul contract activating, a karmic seed blooming, a bardo moment unfolding right in the middle of your life. Because the bardos are not just realms after death. They are also the spaces between moments, the transitions, the thresholds, the liminal places where one version of you ends and another begins. That fight with a loved one that cracks open an old wound, that's a bardo. That career ending that forces you to rediscover your purpose, that's a bardo. That night you lay awake unsure who you are or why you're here, that's a bardo too. These are moments when time softens and the veil thins, moments when you can make a new choice, when you can shift timelines, when you can meet your own soul again, not as a concept, but as a presence. And every time you meet your soul, something extraordinary happens. You remember that you have power, not control over life's events, but power over your response, power over your perception, power over your vibration, and that vibration determines everything. The experiences you attract, the lessons you magnetize, the people who show up on your path. You see, your soul isn't bound by cause and effect the way your mind is. It operates through resonance, through frequency. And that's how you chose your parents. Not because they were perfect, but because they held a vibrational match to what your soul needed, to what you were ready to heal, embody, or transcend. Some souls choose love, some choose trauma, some choose both. But beneath it all, there's always a sacred intention, an invitation to remember the truth, that you are not broken, you are becoming. And your soulmate? They are not just someone who completes you, they are someone who reflects back the parts of you that are already whole, the parts of you that are infinite. If you haven't met them yet, trust that your vibrations are aligning, and if you have, honor the mirror they hold, whether it's smooth or cracked, because even the cracks let the light through. Some soulmates will arrive as comfort, others as fire, but all are alchemists. They transform you, not into someone else, but into more of yourself. That's the hidden truth of soul choice. It's never about escaping this world, it's about becoming more present in it, more embodied, more alive. Because when you die, when you leave this life again, you'll carry not your possessions, not your titles, but the level of awareness you cultivated. And that awareness becomes your guide. If you've lived a life of unconsciousness, you may float through the bardos in confusion, grasping, reacting, trying to find form again. But if you've lived with presence, if you've practiced seeing through illusion, you'll recognize the projections, you'll navigate with clarity, you'll choose your next incarnation not by default but with intention. And maybe you won't return at all. Maybe you'll recognize the clear light and merge with it. Maybe you'll become a guide for others. A voice in someone's intuition, a guardian in someone's dream, a whisper in the wind, reminding them that they are not alone, that death is not the end, that love never dies, that everything they fear losing is already part of them. You are not a student of life. You are life learning itself. You are consciousness experiencing itself through temporary forms. And even death can't interrupt that. It only expands it. The more you realize this now, the more liberated you become, not just from fear, but from the illusion that you were ever anything less than divine. What if the most important decision of your life was made before you were even born? And what if that decision wasn't just about who you'd be, but who you would love, who you would lose, and what wounds you would carry forward so you could finally heal them? That's the truth your soul has always known. And if you're watching this now, it's because you're ready to remember. In the vast in-between, when the last breath has been released and the body is no longer needed, there is no fear, no calendar, no clock. There is only consciousness, awake, weightless, expansive. And in that vastness you are shown not just your life, but the ripple of your every thought, word, and action. You don't just see what you did, you feel what others felt. You experience the energy you sent out as if it were your own, because it was, because there is no separation. And from that space of seeing, you begin to feel a pull, a longing, not from lack, but from the soul's desire to evolve, to refine, to love more freely, to forgive more deeply, to remember the truth, but this time through the lens of form. And so you begin to design your return, but not in the way most imagine. You don't sit with a checklist of goals or a script of events. You move with energy, with vibration, with intent. You select themes, lessons, encounters, and from that frequency new timelines emerge. And one of the most sacred parts of this process is choosing the vessel through which you return. Choosing your parents is not about picking the perfect family, it's about choosing the perfect conditions. The precise mix of genetics, emotional patterns, ancestral memory, and karmic resonance that will awaken the next layer of your soul's remembering. Sometimes that means love, sometimes it means neglect, sometimes it means being born into wealth, other times into struggle. But no matter the circumstance, it is not a punishment. It is a stage, a curriculum, a sacred agreement. You chose them not because they were ideal, but because their presence would activate something dormant inside you. Maybe strength, maybe courage, maybe the ability to break a generational cycle that's been passed down for lifetimes. You didn't choose ease, you chose growth. And sometimes they chose you too. In that pre-birth realm, souls meet. They form agreements, contracts, bonds, not with guarantees, but with possibilities. You may have said, "This time I'll come through you," and they may have said, "I'm ready to carry you even if I don't always know how to love you the way you need." And yet, you came. You knew the risks. You saw the pain they were still carrying, but your soul was clear, the lessons were aligned, the timing was perfect. And when the energy of conception began, a merging of DNA, emotion, desire, karma, you felt the pull. The vibrational doorway opened, and like a whisper caught in wind, your consciousness entered. Not fully, not all at once, but gradually. A stream of spirit descending into form, from infinite awareness into a single heartbeat. That moment wasn't just biology, it was sacred. It was cosmic. It was you choosing to return. And from the moment you entered that womb, the veil began to form, a soft forgetting, not as a punishment but as a gift. Because the forgetting allows the remembering to matter. It gives meaning to discovery, beauty to choice, freedom to love. You were not meant to remember everything. You were meant to live something real, to feel it fully, to find the light even in the dark, and in doing so, to become the bridge between the seen and the unseen. That bridge is not found in dogma, it's found in the moments that move you, the dream that feels like a memory, the gaze of a stranger that unlocks something ancient in your soul, the synchronicities that guide you when logic can't. These are the echoes of your soul's plan, resurfacing to remind you nothing is random. Your soulmate, you didn't stumble into their orbit, you were guided there. Or maybe they haven't arrived yet because the version of you they're meant to meet is still becoming, but even that is part of the design, because soulmates are not here to complete you, they're here to reflect you, the real you, the soul beneath the personality. And that reflection can be gentle or fierce, it can feel like home or like fire, but either way, it wakes you up. And sometimes the greatest soul connection isn't the one that stays. It's the one that cracks you open and disappears, the one that shows you a glimpse of who you really are, then leaves you to become it. The pain of that loss, the questions it leaves behind, those are sacred too, because they lead you inward, and that's where all true reunion begins. Not every soul you meet is here for the long journey. Some are way-showers, some are mirrors, some are reminders of who you were, others are glimpses of who you're becoming. And each one is a step on your return to self. That return is why you came here, not to escape death, not to fear rebirth, but to remember that both are illusions, that consciousness doesn't end, it transforms. And when your current body is done, when this life has offered all it was meant to give, you'll return again to that sacred space, and from there you'll decide, not as a victim of fate, but as a master of vibration. You may choose to come back, to continue the dance, or you may recognize the light and realize you've seen it before, not outside of you, but within, and in that moment you'll remember you never left it. Because the truth is, you are the light. You are the consciousness that births worlds. You are the love that returns lifetime after lifetime, not because you're trapped, but because you care. You care enough to come back, to try again, to heal what's broken, to awaken what's asleep, to remind others, through your presence, that there's something more. And now, you're starting to remember. Every lifetime you've lived has been a step on a long spiral path, a sacred ascent toward remembering what you never truly lost. And even now, as you listen to these words, something deep within you is stirring. Not something new, but something ancient, a knowing that has always been there, something beyond intellect, beyond language. It's the part of you that remembers the light, not as a distant place, but as your origin, as your essence. You've never been separate from that light, not even for a moment, not in life, not in death, not in the in-between. The separation was only ever in perception, like a dream that felt so real until you opened your eyes. But the soul never sleeps. It watches, it whispers, it guides, even when you forget, even when you feel lost, even when the weight of the world makes you doubt why you came here. You did not come here to be perfect. You came here to be whole, to walk through this life with open eyes and an open heart, to stumble, to rise, to fall in love with being alive, to remember your own divinity while still choosing to experience humanity. And when you start living like that, when you begin treating each moment as sacred, each soul as family, each challenge as a teacher, you shift your entire soul trajectory. You begin to live in alignment with what Tibetan mystics call liberation through awareness. That doesn't mean you avoid the human experience. It means you meet it fully, but you're no longer trapped by it. You experience anger without becoming it. You feel fear without obeying it. You move through sadness without forgetting your light. That's not detachment, that's mastery. And it's that kind of mastery that allows you to move through the bardos with clarity, because when the time comes, and it will, when your body exhales its final breath, everything you've practiced here comes with you, your awareness, your vibration, your presence. In that moment you are not judged, you are not punished. You are simply met by your own mind, your own energy, your own truth. And the clearer that truth is, the freer your path becomes. Most souls, when they cross over, are met with visions, some beautiful, some terrifying. But none of them are real in the way we think of reality. They are projections, reflections of the inner landscape, echoes of attachments, desires, fears, and unprocessed karma. And if a soul doesn't recognize them as such, it reacts, it clings, it runs, it spirals back into the illusion of form. But when you've cultivated awareness, when you've trained yourself to recognize thought as thought, feeling as feeling, energy as energy, you meet those visions differently. You don't fight. You don't attach. You witness. You see through. You pass through the bardo not as a ghost, but as a light moving home. That is the power of preparation, not preparation in fear, but in devotion. Devotion to your awakening, devotion to your truth, devotion to the ones who will come after you, because your clarity helps them too, just as those who came before helped you, the ancestors, the guides, the luminous ones who whispered to you in your darkest nights. Their work did, and so will yours. Even now, there are souls who await your awakening, not because you owe them anything, but because your light will help them remember theirs. Maybe they'll be your children, your partner, your students. Maybe you'll never meet them in this lifetime. But the energy you're generating now, the frequency of your thoughts, your love, your choices, it moves beyond time, beyond space. It echoes through the field, and someone somewhere will hear that echo and remember who they are. That's how souls evolve together, not through force, but through resonance, through love that ripples across lifetimes, through awakenings that can't be undone. That's why you're here, to remember and to remind. And when you do return, if you choose to return, it will not be because you're trapped in karma, it will be because you carry compassion, because there is still music to be played, healing to be shared, wisdom to be planted. Maybe you'll return as a teacher, a healer, a poet, or maybe you'll come back in the quietest of roles, a child born into a forgotten corner of the world, destined to awaken a lineage through love alone. No role is greater than another, because what matters isn't what you do, it's who you become through it. And so the choosing continues, not just once, but again and again, the choosing of presence, of courage, of surrender. That's how the soul evolves, one conscious breath at a time. Every breath you take with awareness becomes a thread in the tapestry of your next life. Every act of kindness, a seed that blooms when you least expect it. Every moment you choose love over fear, you alter the frequency of your soul, and that frequency is what guides your journey after death. Not your reputation, not your achievements, your vibration. So ask yourself, right now, who are you becoming? Not for others, not for validation, but for your soul, for your liberation, for your return. Because you're not waiting to die to begin your next life. You're creating it here, in this moment, with every thought, with every choice, with every breath. And when the time comes, when the final curtain closes on this particular story, you'll remember what you always knew, that death is not an ending, it's a doorway. And on the other side of that doorway you will stand once again as the soul you've always been, whole, aware, infinite, ready. And in that clarity, you'll choose again. And when you choose, you won't be guessing. You'll be guided by a deeper wisdom, one that doesn't need words or logic, a silent inner compass that points toward growth, toward healing, toward truth. That guidance might lead you toward a life of stillness or a life of storms, but either way, it will be exactly what your soul needs. Not for comfort, but for expansion. Not to repeat what has already been, but to experience the next layer of awakening. You might choose to return to a family you've known before, souls you've danced with through lifetimes, some you've loved, some you've hurt, some who once held your hand through another death long ago. You'll recognize each other, not with your mind, but with your heart, with that subtle stirring that says, I've been here with you before. And even if the roles have changed, even if the one who was once your child is now your parent, or the friend who once betrayed you returns as your partner, you'll feel the gravity of that bond pulling you together once again. But this time something will be different, because now you'll carry more awareness. The lessons will still come, the pain may still appear, but your relationship with it will be new. You'll see the sacred behind the suffering. You'll recognize the opportunity behind the wound. And from that place, you'll break cycles that have followed you across centuries. Maybe you'll be the first in your bloodline to forgive, the first to choose love instead of fear, the first to sit with your own shadow and say, I see you, I will not run anymore. And that one decision, that quiet moment of truth, can ripple through your ancestry like lightning. You were never just healing for yourself. You were healing for all those who came before you and all who will come after. That's why your choice matters. That's why this life matters. Not because you need to be perfect, but because every time you choose presence, you reclaim power that was scattered long ago. Power lost in fear, power given away through doubt, power abandoned in lifetimes where it wasn't safe to be seen. You reclaim it now, not by force, but by returning to yourself. You didn't come here to be someone else, you came here to be fully, fearlessly you. The you beneath the masks, the you beyond the conditioning, the you that remembers what it means to live from the soul. And every time you act from that place, the next world you're moving toward becomes brighter, more free, more aligned. Because this life is not a test, it's a preparation, not for heaven, not for judgment, but for remembrance, for clarity, for liberation. You're not earning your way back to the divine, you're remembering that you never left. And as that remembrance deepens, so does your ability to choose. With each layer of awakening you begin to see with more precision. You see how your thoughts shape form, how your beliefs generate frequency, how every decision either pulls you closer to your true self or deeper into illusion. That awareness doesn't make you rigid, it makes you compassionate. Compassionate with yourself, compassionate with others, because you start to see everyone as a soul in process. Some are just beginning their journey, others are walking alongside you. A few have already become guides, whispering through intuition, through signs, through that sudden peace that washes over you when you thought you couldn't go on. And one day you'll become that guide for someone else. Maybe you already are. Maybe someone has felt your presence when you weren't even aware of it. Maybe your voice, your courage, your quiet decision to rise again is the very thing keeping someone else from giving up. That's how souls weave together. That's how you chose your soulmate, your children, your enemies, your teachers. Not because you wanted perfection, but because you wanted truth. You wanted growth. You wanted the kind of love that survives death, because it was forged before life even began. And love like that doesn't need words. It moves through timelines, dimensions, lifetimes. It finds its way back over and over again, through the eyes of a stranger, through the arms of a friend, through the touch of someone who knows you before you speak. And sometimes it returns in dreams. Have you ever woken up with tears on your face from a dream that didn't feel like a dream at all? A place that felt more like home than anywhere you've been? A face that brought comfort too deep to explain? That was a reunion, a reminder, a visit across the veil. Your soul doesn't forget the ones it loves, even if your mind does. And sometimes, the ones you've loved most deeply are the very ones who hurt you the most in this life. Not out of cruelty, but because you asked them to. Because you knew that the pain would break something open, that it would force you to see yourself, to reclaim something long buried, to step into your power when no one else could give it to you. Those are sacred contracts. And when you heal from them, something powerful happens. You free both souls, you complete a loop that's been repeating for lifetimes. That's the beauty of conscious incarnation. You're not here to suffer endlessly. You're here to complete what was left undone, to bring light to places that have only known shadow, to evolve beyond reaction into remembrance. And when you do, the entire universe shifts with you, because your soul is not a drop in the ocean, it is the ocean in a drop, and every drop that remembers ripples outward. There is no wasted life, no wrong lifetime, only experience, only evolution, only love finding its way back to itself. And when this life ends, when you step out of this body and return to the place between, you'll see the perfection in all of it, the love hidden behind every loss, the growth birthed from every challenge. You'll weep, not from sadness, but from awe, from the sheer beauty of it all, from the gratitude that you chose to come here, that you had the courage to forget, so you could remember again. And as you stand in that infinite space, clear and free, you'll know with certainty, your journey is not over, it is only just beginning. And the moment that realization dawns, you will feel the stirring of another choice. Not from pressure, not from obligation, but from pure love. The kind of love that moves galaxies. The kind that brings a soul back into the realm of form again and again. Not because it has to, but because it wants to. Because there's still light to be shared, still hearts to awaken, still threads of destiny waiting to be woven into something sacred. And as you begin to feel into the possibilities of your next life, you won't be choosing based on fear or escape. You'll be choosing from a place of alignment, of trust, of soul clarity. You'll be shown lives you could live, paths you could walk, lessons you're ready for, and one of those paths will begin to shimmer with a unique vibration, a resonance that feels like a familiar chord echoing across dimensions. That's how you know it's yours. Not because it's easy, not because it's glamorous, but because it holds everything you're ready to experience next. You'll sense the family you could be born into. You'll feel the energy of those parents, their hopes, their wounds, their lineage, their shadows. You'll feel their longing to create, to love, to heal, even if they don't consciously know it yet. And somewhere in the depth of their union, a doorway will begin to open, a vibrational match, a sacred invitation, and you'll hover, gently, at the threshold, not rushing in, not forcing, just feeling, observing, listening. Because even in that space between lives, your awareness is refined. You know that choosing a life isn't just about who you'll be, it's about who you'll serve, who you'll meet, who you'll remember. You'll sense the soulmates embedded in that timeline, the ones who agreed to find you, to walk beside you, to wake you up again. You'll see the moments your paths will cross, a touch, a word, a silence, a memory sparked without reason, and you'll smile, because you know it's already written in the field. You'll also see the challenges, the heartbreaks, the losses, not as punishment, but as sacred doorways, each one a crack through which more light will enter. You'll see the people who will hurt you not because they are cruel, but because they too are learning. They too are trying to find their way back home. And if you look closely, you'll see your own soul in their eyes. The same confusion, the same longing, the same ancient ache to belong. And in that recognition something shifts. You no longer choose lives to escape karma, you choose lives to dissolve it, to meet the very patterns you've run from in the past, but this time with presence, with courage, with love. Because now you know. The only way out is through. And so you feel it, that gentle magnetism pulling you toward the physical, toward time, toward gravity, toward the heartbeat of the mother you've chosen. You don't fall into her body, you merge with her energy, slowly, intuitively, like mist filling a vessel. The body forms around you, cell by cell, a sacred cocoon. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you feel small again, contained, but not lost, just beginning. You hear her heartbeat. You feel her joy, her fear, her memories, her ancestral echoes, and all of it becomes part of you, not as identity but as texture, as context, as soil for the seeds you've brought with you. And as your body grows, the veil thickens. You begin to forget the stars, the light, the agreements, the journey. But something in you remembers still, in dreams, in intuition, in the way your heart leaps when you hear a certain song, or the way your skin tingles when you meet someone whose soul has touched yours before. You may not remember their name, but your energy remembers, their frequency. You may not recall the exact moment you chose your parents, but your body will carry their signature. You may not consciously understand why this life has unfolded the way it has, but your soul does. It remembers every choice, every promise, every sacred vow made before time began. And all of it was for this moment, this breath, this remembering. That you are not just living a life. You are navigating a masterpiece of energy, choice, and awareness. You are walking a path your soul handcrafted, woven from threads of stardust, karma, love, and truth. You are here not to be someone else, not to prove anything, not to chase anything, but to embody the vibration you were born with, the one you brought through the veil, the one that still lives inside your chest, humming like a quiet drumbeat when the world goes silent. And the more you listen to that beat, the more you align with your deeper path, not the path your mind thinks is logical, but the one your soul mapped long ago, the one that bends toward meaning, toward truth, toward light. Because this life is not an accident, and your presence here is not random. It is evidence of courage, evidence of love, evidence of a soul that said yes to this world again. And the next time you cross that threshold, the next time you return to the in-between though, you'll bring with you the fruits of everything you've lived. Every choice made in love, every moment lived in truth, every lesson learned through pain and transformed into wisdom, that becomes your currency, that becomes your light. That becomes the energy that shapes the next incarnation, and as you stand once again at that place of choosing, you will look back at this life, not with regret, but with reverence. You will see how perfectly it unfolded, even the chaos, even the loss, especially the moments you thought would break you. You'll see how they built you instead. And you'll know you chose well. And when it's time to choose again, you will, with love, with grace, with absolute clarity, because now you remember who you are, and you are ready. And what happens after that is nothing short of sacred, because when you carry that kind of remembrance into the space between lives, you no longer drift, you direct, you no longer search, you recognize, you no longer grasp for form, you become a conscious artist of energy, vibration, and intention. You become the sculptor of your next becoming, and with each step you awaken not just yourself, but the whole, because your soul was never separate from the greater field. It has always been a single ray of the infinite, dancing into embodiment and back again. You realize that your very breath, your thoughts, your choices are threads in a far larger weave, that your heartbreak was never wasted, that your laughter was a form of prayer, that your longing was a compass pulling you back toward wholeness, and that every soul you met, every parent, every soulmate, every stranger who passed you like a shadow in the night, they were all parts of the same grand remembering, the universe loving itself through your eyes, the divine waking up in your skin. There's a moment in the in-between when you feel this truth not as a concept but as reality. You dissolve into it. You melt into everything you ever were and everything you will ever be. Time collapses, form dissolves, and all that remains is love. Pure, absolute, unshakable. Not the kind that needs validation, not the kind that comes and goes, but the kind that births galaxies, that bends light, that brings a soul back to earth to try again, just to share a little more of it. And so you return to love, you return for love, you return as love, because that is all there ever was. And the most beautiful part of all is that you don't have to wait until death to remember. You don't have to wait for the bardos to learn how to choose. You can choose now, right here, in this life, in this breath. You can begin to live as the soul you already are. You can look into the eyes of the people in your life and see the echoes of eternity there. You can hold their pain as your own. You can forgive what your mind can't explain. You can love the ones who hurt you, not by denying what they did, but by seeing what they forgot. Because they forgot what you are now remembering, that we are not these names, not these masks, not these wounds. We are souls, old, timeless, sacred, still learning how to shine through the density of form. So yes, you chose your parents, you chose your body, you chose the very fabric of this lifetime, not to punish yourself, but to give yourself another chance to awaken through it. You chose to be here now in this moment of human history because something in your soul knew it would matter. That the choices you make here would ripple across lifetimes, that your awakening would help lift others, that your voice would remind someone else they're not alone. And maybe this is the moment that reminder is reaching you. Maybe all of this wasn't just a story to entertain your mind, but a vibration meant to call your soul forward, to help you feel what you've always sensed, that this life is not a random set of circumstances, that the people you love, the ones who challenge you, the places that draw you in for no logical reason are all signs, invitations, echoes from the in-between calling you home. Because the truth is, you've never been as far from the other side as you thought. The veil is not a wall, it's a whisper, and in the stillness you can hear beyond it. In the silence, you can remember everything. You've already died many times, in little ways, in big ways, and yet you're still here. Becoming, choosing, evolving. You've let go of identities, old versions of yourself, beliefs that no longer fit. And every time you've done that, you've stepped into a new life without ever leaving your body. These too are transitions. These too are bardos. The bardo is not just what comes after death. It's what happens every time you outgrow who you thought you were. Every time life asks you to become more than you believed you could be. Every time your heart breaks open just wide enough to let more light through. So, if you're in a moment of uncertainty right now, if you feel like everything is dissolving, like the life you once recognized is slipping away, you are not dying. You are being reborn. You are in the space between, the sacred threshold, the place where the soul writes its next chapter. And now you know how. Now you remember. The question is no longer, what will happen to me after I die? The question becomes, what am I choosing to carry forward into my next moment, my next breath, my next becoming? And when you ask that from the level of the soul, the answer is always love. Love for the journey, love for the mystery, love for the ones who walk it with you, whether for a lifetime or a single heartbeat. Because now you see the truth. You didn't come here to chase something, you came here to remember what was never lost. You didn't come here to earn worth, you came here to embody it. You didn't come here to escape suffering, you came to transform it. And you are doing it with every breath, with every choice, with every moment you choose presence over avoidance, forgiveness over blame, truth over illusion. You're remembering. And when the final breath of this life arrives, you will not fear it. You will recognize it. You will smile into the light. You will return to that sacred space not as someone who was taken too soon, not as someone who failed, not as someone lost in confusion, but as someone who remembered. And the light will welcome you not as a stranger but as a friend, and you will know you are free, you are eternal, you are love, and you are home.